Well, Israel is now transferring 5,000 doses of the coronavirus vaccine to frontline Palestinian health workers. This is the first such transfer from the Israeli government, which says it hasn't received any requests from the Palestinians. Right now, there have been almost 160,000 cases of the coronavirus in the West Bank and the Gaza Strip, and over 1,800 deaths. And we have our correspondent Emily Rose joining us from Ramallah to break down the situation. So Emily, tell us what the situation is like on the ground in the Palestinian territories right now. Are cases rising? What are the daily numbers looking like here?
Yes, Natasha, so cases are looking still worrying in the Palestinian territories, with just over 400 new cases announced in the last 24 hours, the bulk of which, close to 300 of which are in the West Bank. It's looking a little bit more stable in Gaza than it was before, as they're seeing a drop in the death rate, but still, it's still worrisome for people here, and they're really waiting to see when they can get that vaccine to stop the spread and stop the curb the spread that's happening across the Palestinian territories.
What's going on with the Palestinian vaccination drive? Why has there been a holdup in rolling out vaccines?
Right, so if you ask senior members of the Palestinian Authority, some of them say that really the reason that there's been a holdup on the vaccine campaign in the Palestinian territories is due to financial costs. The Palestinian Authority is in negotiations with 4 major pharmaceutical companies. It's in negotiations with Moderna, with AstraZeneca, also with Russia for the Sputnik vaccine, and with China for the Sinopharm. And they say that these pharmaceutical companies ask for 50% of the cost up front, which they simply can't afford. So that's what they attribute the delay to, though there are several who charge Israel with the responsibility for administering these vaccines across the Palestinian territories. Of course, Israel saying that remains within the hands of the Palestinians. But either way, that delay is one that we could see last for a little while longer, because the Palestinian Authority is in negotiation with these companies. Many have said that they wouldn't actually receive the vaccine until earliest mid-March. There were reports just a few weeks ago that Russian President Vladimir Putin sent a shipment of vaccines as a gift to the Palestinian territories. They were supposed to arrive a couple weeks ago as well, but that also too seems to be being delayed. So it hasn't actually kicked off here on the ground yet, and certainly many officials here and Palestinians in particular are wondering when this campaign will start and what will be the impetus that will kick it off.
Can Israel be held responsible in any way, as many media outlets are alleging across the world?
So many are wondering if Israel is responsible for vaccinating the Palestinian population. And there are those that charge senior members of the Palestinian Authority that have said that it is. Now, under the Oslo Accords, the Palestinian Authority is responsible for the civil affairs vaccinations, and many Israeli officials have brought this up. On the other hand, it also defines that within emergency situations, that does move over into the hands of Israel. So there have been those who have argued on both sides. When I've spoken to senior members of the Palestinian Authority Health Ministry, they said that they were getting this vaccine campaign under control by themselves. They were negotiating independently for the Palestinian Authority. There were reports that the PA did ask Israel for about 10,000 vaccines and that they were refused. Israel hasn't actually responded to that claim. Either way, though, today we did see an admission from and a statement from Israel in the form of reports saying that the Defense Ministry has said that it will send 5,000 of the Pfizer vaccine to the Palestinian Authority. We haven't yet seen a response from them yet. We haven't seen a response from Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas or the Prime Minister, so we don't know if those vaccines will actually be administered by the Palestinian Authority. But it looks as though Israel is extending that offer regardless, and now we'll have to see if that will be administered to Palestinian people across the Palestinian territories.
Now, Emily, let's turn to the political situation in the West Bank right now. Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas has announced plans to hold legislative elections on May 22nd and presidential polls in July for the first time in 15 years. Why, and what kind of results could we expect from this?
Right, so Palestinian Authority elections are due to kick off soon, as was stated by Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas, but we have to remember that these statements have been made in the past before, and there are a few things that could get in the way. First of all, the Palestinian Authority has stated that it won't go through with elections without Palestinians in Jerusalem being able to vote, and that's also dependent on Israel giving that approval. So we do have to see if that goes through. Others say that there needs to be some kind of reconciliation between Hamas and the Palestinian Authority in order to run true and fair elections. And will there be backlash from other Palestinian factions? That also remains to be seen. Right now, it looks as though the Palestinian Authority is saying it will go through with these elections in a series of phases throughout the course of the year. Many are skeptical, as this has been said in the past. But there are also those who say that this time it's a true and fair shot. We'll have to see in the next few months if we do see elections here on the ground in the Palestinian territories.